Hi there, it's Watchin, your favorite executive next door, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I teach ambitious Black women the unwritten rules of corporate America so that they can get as much from corporate America as they give to corporate America. And today's video, we are going to chat about something that I feel like may ruffle a couple of feathers. And we're going to talk about if you need to start a new business or if you just need a different job. And before I start the video, I want to be very clear. The video is not to discourage anybody from entrepreneurship because obviously that would be a little bit hypocritical. And if you feel like starting a business is a desire of your heart, I say go for it. Don't let anything and anyone, and especially not me, stop you from starting. But what I have seen, especially because of COVID, is that when people talk about entrepreneurship, it's always in the context of an escape from working for someone else. And I think for people who felt like corporate was their security, COVID has revealed that corporate jobs may not be as stable as they once were. And especially if you are a Black person or a person of color in this time, working in corporate America has shown that, you know, when it's time to put people on the chopping block, our jobs are typically the ones to go. So I totally get it. What I've seen a lot on social media is that people are looking at entrepreneurship as an escape for corporate. And the message for Black people has been, see, corporate isn't stable. COVID showed that our jobs are going. And that's why you as a Black person should start a business because you need multiple streams of income and all that stuff. And I remember being like, hold up. First of all, let's look at the data. Let's look at the numbers. And let's see like what historically has been. This is not the end all and be all. People have made, you know, great strides in entrepreneurship, but let's just look at the average person, right? So businesses owned by Black women earn significantly less than businesses run by other women, right? So there's that. Just 7% of Black owned employer firms have 6 to 10 employees as compared to the national average of 12%, right? Just 1% of Black business owners get business loans in their first year. And we know that capital, right? You need that to run a business. And one study found that Black women-owned businesses on average earn $24,000 in net revenue compared to $142,900 among all other women-owned businesses. As of August of 2020, COVID had wiped out nearly half of all Black-owned businesses, and not because the businesses weren't phenomenal, right? But because the access to capital and the resources that you need to grow and scale a business for Black business owners is so slim. Like we've read it all, we've seen all the data. And again, it's not to discourage people. I don't share the statistics to scare anybody, right? Because they didn't stop me from it. But I share them so that you all can understand what you're up against when you decide to start a business, but also to help us develop a level of appreciation for the Black business owners who we see on IG or we see in our neighborhoods who are out here getting it in spite of all the challenges that they're up against. But a lot of those people are pursued entrepreneurship as maybe a calling on their lives or as a passion. And not to say it can't become that, but when you're running from something, typically the result is not what you want. And I've seen a lot of people in my network who've transitioned out of their jobs because they hated them. They start a business, and shortly after they start that business, they realize that they're not actually the CEO that they pictured they would be after they quit, right? That they actually just created another job that is now their business, and the business only made money when they were working, so that's a problem. Instead of doing just one job like they would do in corporate, they're doing their job plus everybody else's job, and they're not getting the support or the resources that they need in order to be able to do any of those jobs effectively. And then most important, because when they were in corporate America, they only had visibility into their area of business. And when you get out of corporate and you are on your own, you realize that you have to understand and run multiple parts of the business. And typically, we don't have the resources, the financial resources that allow us to hire the experts who could come in and do that for us. And then what you see is that slowly people start to get discouraged, and something that started out as like something that gave them joy, something that they looked at as freedom, something that they looked at as like building for the next generation, all of a sudden feels like a trap. And it's like, well, dang, how did I get here? And when I'm having those conversations, I always try to get to what the motivation was for leaving corporate to start the business, right? And usually it's one of these things, right? Is what it comes up the most frequently. One, people were sick of dealing with corporate politics, right? And listen, I could talk all day, but I might actually do an episode on corporate politics. They weren't feeling appreciated at work. They felt like it was taking forever to get promoted and everybody else was getting promoted over them. They feel like they were underpaid. They feel like they no longer enjoyed what they were doing, and they were not being given the opportunities at their companies to explore other opportunities, right? You're good at this, the company finds value in you doing this. And so when you talk about stretch projects and wanting to learn more, sometimes they felt stifled, right? People wanted to keep you at your level. And if you're currently somebody who's watching this video and you're saying the same thing, is that sounds like an alignment issue, not a corporate issue, right? It might mean that you should be looking at a different company or a different job, not necessarily that you need to leave corporate altogether to start a new business. And how can you tell if you're misaligned, right? This is something that comes up all the time. So I have like 9 ways that you can use to check in with yourself to say, am I really at the end of my corporate journey, or is this time to pivot into something else? So you wake up every day and you feel like something is off, but you don't know what it is. You just don't want to go to work, right? There's just something that's like, I'm not trying to talk to those people today. You feel disconnected from your work. So you're checking the boxes, but you don't really care about the product or the end result. Like, you're just doing it because you have to. You're there so you don't get fined. You get sick a lot, or you have like weird symptoms, but you don't know why. You feel tired, you feel sluggish, and you're just uninspired by projects that at one point really made you excited. You feel unclear or foggy or stuck, or like you can't see what's next for you, even though what you're doing you feel like should be working, it just is not. No matter what you do, no matter how much you try, no matter how much effort you give, you feel like it's just not working. This one, you always question your decisions, or you feel unsure about things that you used to be really confident about. You feel jealous for people who you think are living their lives, or they out here living the dream, and you're like, how come that person's excited about their job and I'm not? Or this one, the 9th one, is that you are living in the past and questioning what you could do differently. As opposed to being excited about the now and the future, you're like, oh my God, remember that first job I had at Comedy Central? It was like, girl, you have not worked at Comedy Central for 20 years. Let it go, right? And so if you are saying, yes, this is me, it might be a misalignment. So I'm gonna invite you to ask yourself a few questions. So take out a pen, a piece of paper, write down these questions, and then sit with them for a little bit. Don't rush yourself to answer them. Like, sit with the questions. And then once you start feeling like you have a grasp and you've thought enough about it, answer these questions. So the first question is, what is your career mission statement? And if you're like, hello, you're gonna be misaligned if you don't have a mission statement. What do you value in your work environment? Get clear about that. How do you want the values that you have for work to manifest in your real life? What does your perfect day at work look like? And don't say not going to work, because that's not it. So your perfect day at work, what does it look like? What do you want to spend most of your working hours doing? And then the most important question, the 6th question, is what do you have the ability to change right now? Typically that's your network, the projects. There are tons of things that you can change. So what can you change? And then when you get that sense of like your mission and what you want to do, you can start making that happen in real life, because every career opportunity that you consider should be mapped to your mission statement. You should be really clear on how the job that you're taking is going to help you accomplish some of the things that you've decided were important to you through those 6 questions. The questions also help you identify some developmental gaps that you may have that you can then start working on intentionally. And there are certain skills that you can develop while working in a corporate environment that can make the transition into whatever your next thing is a lot easier, right? You can make a transition that could seem impossible seem a little bit easier, or actually be a little bit easier, because you have gotten the skills that you need. But you get to decide what that next thing looks like based on the skill sets that you develop while working for someone else. And before I go, I must say this, because it needs to be said. If you are currently in corporate and you're struggling with things like discipline and professionalism and meeting deadlines and building relationships while you're working for someone else, those habits are necessary for entrepreneurship, and they don't automatically appear because all of a sudden you work for yourself. If you decide to start a new business, the stakes are actually higher at you being able to do all of those things and be a professional in those ways. And so we know a bunch of business owners who are terrible business owners. And I'm pretty sure if you look back at their careers, they were probably terrible employees back then, right? They didn't utilize their time in corporate to transition and develop and grow so that they could be effective once they were no longer working for somebody else. A role that corporate can play in your career journey is to be looked at as a developmental ground. And if you're clear on why you are in certain roles, or what skills or resources you want to get from a current season in your career, it makes dealing with the BS corporate politics a lot less of a big deal because you are clear on what it is that you're trying to get from them, right? And it's not a sense of resentment of, they have to work these hours, nobody appreciates me, they're taking all these things from me, because you are intentional about also getting what it is that you need from them. So before y'all go out there and start all these businesses and deal with all the stuff that comes with building and growing and scaling a business, which most business owners never even get to scaling, make sure that you are getting everything that you need from corporate, and that you are not running from your job into entrepreneurship as an escape. But if you decide to make that leap, that you are doing it because there's a calling on your life that you feel like you have to get out into the world. Again, not saying don't do it. I'm just saying it's hard out here in these streets for Black entrepreneurs. It's not impossible, but make sure that you are using whatever you can to make that decision a lot easier for you if that's what you choose to do. As always, thanks y'all. This is just my opinion. I would love to hear how you think about entrepreneurship versus working in corporate, so leave something in the comments. And until next time, bye.